Sechs Kiddushin Daf Nun Dalid begins in the middle of the Gemara's discussion as to what is Pshat and Rabbi Meir's Shita in a case where a man is Mekadosh and Isha using hektish materials. Now, Rabbi Meir held that if you're Mekadosh and Isha with hektish, if you do it b'mezid, you intentionally use hektish, then it works. If, however, you do not intentionally use hektish, you did it b'shegeg, then it's no good. So the Gemara is trying to figure out why should that be? Why should mezid work and shegeg not work? So so far we've seen Rav Yechanan's explanation. Rav Yechanan had said that the halacha of me'ila, which is that if you use hektish, you have to bring a carbon. And that applies, we know that applies only if you use hektish b'shegeg. If you use b'mezid, there's no carbon. And Rabbi Yechanan had said that Rabbi Meir holds that there's another halacha, and that's that the material that you're using becomes chulin. Part of me'ila is that it becomes chulin. Since it becomes chulin, it becomes yours, and therefore he could use it, and the Kiddushin is chal. Of course, it's forbidden to do that, but if he did, at least it's his. Now, Rabbi Yechanan's explanation had involved to say that it only becomes chulin if he does the me'ila, if he uses hektish b'mezid. If he uses hektish b'shegeg, it does not become chulin, and that is why the Kiddushin should be no good, because it still belongs to hektish, doesn't belong to the man. Now, the Gemara now says that Rav rejects this out of Rav Yechanan, and he says we searched Rav Meir's sheet is all over hektish. We never found anywhere where he says that shegeg, that if you use hektish b'shegeg, it does not become chulin. If you use hektish b'mezid, it becomes chulin. We never saw that he holds it such a sheet, and therefore that couldn't be the explanation as to why Kiddushin works b'mezid but doesn't work b'shegeg. So therefore he wants to say a different shot, and he says, well, here we're not talking about regular hektish, we're talking about one specific type of hektish. We're talking about big day kahuna. Big day kahuna that are still in service, still functional. Because big day kahuna have a special halacha. The kohen can be expected to take the big day kahuna off as soon as he finishes doing the avodah, and he no longer has need to use it for the hektish purpose. It's impossible. He's not a malach, and therefore the kedusha of big day kahuna includes an automatic allowance that b'shegeg, as long as he's not miskaven to use it for his own purposes, as long as it's just b'shegeg, it's not b'shegeg in the sense he didn't know what he was doing. It's b'shegeg in the sense that he's not trying to use hektish for his own clothing wear. But that is okay. He's allowed to do that. Since he's allowed to do that, it doesn't become me'ila. It doesn't become chulin. And therefore, the big day kahuna have a built-in halacha that any shegeg, there's no me'ila, and therefore it doesn't become chulin. Therefore, if he used to use the big day kahuna b'shegeg to be mekadosh and isha, that would be invalid also. It stays hektish property and there's no me'ila. If he does it b'mezid, though, there was no built-in dispensation for big day kahuna, so it does become me'ila, it does go to chulin, and therefore the Kiddushin is valid. That is how Rav wants to explain Rabbi Meir's opinion here. We're talking about big day kahuna in service. So now the Gemara has a number of kashas on this. First kasha, the Gemara says we have a brisa that says that worn out of service big day kahuna, there is me'ila according to Rabbi Meir. That's what the brisa says. So the Gemara understands that if it's worn out and there is me'ila, so certainly if it's not worn out, most logically, if it's in service, there's me'ila also. So therefore you see that there is me'ila. So why are we saying here that there's no me'ila? Now when we say there's me'ila, we mean b'shegeg. We don't use the term me'ila to refer to using hektish b'mezid. There's no carbon on that. So we're saying so b'shegeg, there is me'ila. So what are we saying? That Rabbi Meir holds that you're allowed to use big day kahuna as a shegeg, and therefore it doesn't become chulin. So the Gemara says no. This is talking only about worn out big day kahuna, because worn out big day kahuna no longer has that dispensation that you're allowed to wear it after you finish the avodah. He's never going to use it for the avodah. So it goes back to regular status of hektish, where it doesn't have an allowance for shegeg, and therefore there is a violation of me'ila if you use it b'shegeg, and the kasha is off. Okay, next, the Gemara asks a different type of kasha. Part of what we're saying to express this is that since we're saying the rule is that since the big day kahuna were allowed to be used b'shegeg, to be worn, so therefore they're allowed to be used for other types of uses like being mekadosh and isha b'shegeg. Now the Gemara questions that. Is that true, that just because you use it for one thing, you're allowed to use it for one type of use b'shegeg, you're allowed to use it for a different type of use b'shegeg? Says the Gemara, I'll show you that Rav Meir doesn't hold that way. Where do we see that? From a Mishnah discussing the halachos of the shkolim that were given for the karbonis tzibor that were taken every year. So those shkolim were brought and they were put into two boxes in the lishka, in the office in the Beis HaMikdash which held them. One was labeled new coins and one was labeled old coins. New coins were this year's coins that were brought now for this year, and those were used for the karbanis, and therefore if anybody uses those coins for his own purposes, that is 100% me'ila according to all opinions. He's violating the purpose that they're meant to be used for. Now the old coins included the leftovers from last year's that weren't used, plus new ones where somebody brought where he had failed to bring last year and he brings them now. So those new coins, those old coins, that is, they were meant to be used to fix the wall and to fix the towers, protecting the city. They were used for communal functions like that. Now those, you were allowed to use b'shoigeg because people sit in the shade of the wall. There's no way you could not have hana from the wall b'shoigeg. Those were mutter. However, does that mean that somebody is allowed to, or he doesn't violate me'ila if he uses them for other purposes b'shegig, if he goes and takes the coins b'shegig? That's a machlekes Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Meir seems to say, no, you do not have a heter on that, and there's still me'ila. So therefore, Rabbi Meir holds that just because you have one use b'shegig that's not going to be me'ila, doesn't mean you have another one. And therefore, in our case of the Big Kahuna, just because you're allowed to wear them after the avodah is over until you get a chance to take them off, doesn't mean that if you're Mekadesh and Isha, it's not me'ila. And it should still be me'ila, and therefore it should still go to Chulin, and therefore if you're Mekadesh and Isha with it, it should still be good. So the answer is no. We're going to switch the names here. This is Rabbi Yehuda who holds this way, not Rabbi Meir. Now, the Gemara has another very similar style kasha from Rabbi Beiser, where Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak says that a stone of Yerushalayim that fell out, there is me'il on it. But again, that should be permitted to use b'shegeg because in the line in the Torah Malachei Asharis. And yet, Rabbi Meir there, and it specifically quotes Rabbi Meir, it's still, you're allowed, there is me'il on it. So you see that just because you're allowed to use it for one use, b'shegeg doesn't allow you to use it for other things, and me'ila still applies. Same kasha. So the answer is it's not Rabbi Meir, it's Rabbi Yehuda. Where it says it can't be Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that Yerushalayim stones don't have kedusha. We have a Mishnah that says if you want to make a neder on something, you want to say that it should have the halachas of hektish. So you could say it's like a sheep of karbonos. It's like the stall that they stay in. It's like the wood for the fires. It's like the hechal. It's like the mezbeach, or it's like Yerushalayim. According to Tanakama, you could say that. Rabbi Yehuda says anyone who says Yerushalayim doesn't count as anything. That doesn't make it hektish, because he apparently holds Yerushalayim stones don't have kedusha. So this Mishnah can't be Rabbi Yehuda. Someone says no, maybe he agrees that Yerushalayim stones have kedusha, but there the problem was he didn't say ki Yerushalayim. He just said Yerushalayim. Someone says no. There's another brayso where Rabbi Yehuda says even if he says ki Yerushalayim, he still didn't say anything. He has to say something which is karev in Yerushalayim. That's the only thing that has kedusha. So the Gemara answers there's a machlekes what Rabbi Yehuda holds. It's two different Tanaim. One holds Rabbi Yehuda holds Yerushalayim has kedusha, and our Mishnah that you brought, even though it mentions Rabbi Meir, it really should be Rabbi Yehuda, and it's saying that Rabbi Yehuda, this Tana holds, Rabbi Yehuda holds that Yerushalayim stones do have kedusha. Okay, the Gemara now brings in Ula, who quotes Bar Pada, who goes back to Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, and he says, I like Rabbi Yochanan's explanation of Rabbi Meir, that hektish, when it's used, b'mezid becomes chulin. When it's used b'shegeg, it does not become chulin, because the person has to be taking the hektish for himself for it to become chulin. He's taking it away from hektish, so he gets it away from hektish, and now it's chulin. But if it's b'shegeg, he never intended to do that. It's a mekach tais, and he never took it away from hektish, so it stays hektish. The Torah tells us that there's a carbon me'ila when somebody uses hektish b'shegeg and not b'mezid. Okay, that's as far as carbon. The carbon, the Torah set up for a shegeg, not for a mezid. So Mara asks, but if it doesn't become chulin, because he never meant for it to become chulin, he never meant for the transaction to happen, why is he chayv a carbon? He didn't do anything. It stays hektish. It still belongs to hektish. So therefore, the Gemara changes it a bit. The Gemara says when Ravin came, he explained that Rabbi Meir says it when you use something which belongs to hektish b'shegeg, and it gets destroyed, like if you eat it or if you burn it, and that type of use, it leaves hektish. It leaves hektish's property because you destroyed it. So there's a carbon. However, if it's money, so the money you spent it stays hektish. The kedushas hektish stays on the money, even though you transferred it from you to someone else to buy something. But it stays, the hektish is there, and therefore there's no carbon me'ila there, because you didn't take the hektish off the money by spending it. Okay, now the Gemara focuses on what is the halacha between the two machlekes which we learned on the last daf in Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. We learned a machlekes if someone is mekadesh an isha with meiser, and a machlekes if someone is mekadesh an isha with hektish. So today we've been discussing hektish. The Gemara now goes back to the halacha. First of all, in the case of meiser. So in the case of meiser, if you use meiser, that's meiser sheni, to be mekadesh an isha, machlekes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda if that's your money and it works. that is what Rabbi Yehuda holds. And according to Rabbi Meir, it's Momen Gavoya, it's Kadosh Baruch Hu's money, and therefore it's not yours, and the hektish is no good. Says the Gemara, we have a brisa that goes in this halacha of Meiser. We have a brisa that says like Rabbi Meir. What's the brisa? So the Gemara quotes a lengthy brisa discussing the halachas of Kerem Revoy that are learned from Meiser, and from that we'll see what the halacha of Meiser is, and we'll see that Beis Hillel goes like Rabbi Meir, and Beis Hillel is the halacha, so therefore it counts as if a brisa is supporting Rabbi Meir's halacha, again, that it is Momen Gavoya. So what does the brisa say? So the brisa says if somebody has Kerem Revoy, that's the 4th year of growth in his vineyard. We know the first 3 years are early, you can't do anything with them. The 4th year it has to be brought to Yerushalayim, just like Meiser Sheni. So what's the halacha about that, the fruits of Revoy? The Machlek is Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel in a number of factors. First of all, if you redeem it, you have to add 1/5 of the value like you do Meiser Sheni. So Beis Shammai says no, and Beis Hillel says yes. Next question, is there beer? That is, do you have to take it out of the house the year afterwards, after you have it? Just like the other Meisers, you have to remove from your house in the 3rd and the 6th year of Shemitah. So on that, the Gemara says, again, same machlokes Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, if that halacha applies to Kerem Revoy. Beis Shammai says no, and Beis Hillel says yes. Next halacha, is there peret and oilos? Peret and oilos is like leket and shikha, where if you drop a grape, or if a grape grows by itself without a cluster, do these lone grapes, do they have to be left for a niyam or not? So generally, you have to, but this is Kerem Revoy is like Meiser Sheni, so does that halacha apply to it or not? Here you have the opposite machlekes on each of these. Beis Hillel says no, it all is yours and it goes to the press. You do whatever you want with it, but you have to bring it to Yerushalayim. And Beis Shammai says yes, it has these halachas. And the aniyim who receive it, they have to bring it to Yerushalayim. So the Gemara, what is the source of this machlekes? So the Gemara says, according to Beis Hillel, there's a gzeira shavo from the word kodesh, which is written by Meiser, to the word kodesh, which is written by Kerem Revoy. And just like Meiser has chaimish and has beer, so Kerem Revoy also has chaimish, the extra 5th, and it has beer. Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai does not have that drasha at all. Okay, so now, obviously here you're seeing that Beis Hillel is holding like Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Yehuda would say that it is Mammon Hedyet, it is your money, and therefore it wouldn't make sense for it to be Kuli the God. It wouldn't make sense for you to be able to keep it and not have to leave Peret and Oilus to the Aniyim. The fact that you can leave Peret and Oilus, the fact that you do not have to leave Peret and Oilus to the Aniyim, according to Beis Hillel, means that it's a Momen Gavoya, which is Rabbi Meir's opinion. Now, the Gemara continues and says in the machlokes about hektish, whether hektish could be used for Kiddushin, meaning whether it becomes chulin, you violate me'ilah and it becomes chulin when you use it. So there we pass on like Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that shoygeg it will work, because shoygeg there is me'ilah and becomes chulin, but mezid not. Now, where do you see a Mishnah that supports that? So the Gemara quotes a Mishnah that says that if the Gizbar, the representative of Hektish, takes the Hektish money and he sends it to buy something from the store, and he sends it with a messenger who's intelligent, and along the way, both the Gizbar and the messenger remember that this is Hektish, so they both can no longer be considered to be a Shoygig. If they remember, the Shoygig halacha is off, so there's no Me'ilah on them. So Rabbi Yehuda says that, so this Mishnah says, that is, that there is no me'ilah on the gizbar, there's no me'ilah on the shliach, because they're not a shaygeg, but the store owner, when he takes the money, if he then spends it, so he has money in his possession, which is hektish, and that clearly shows that when he received it with the mazid of the gizbar and the chenveni, it still stayed hektish. When the halacha is when the chenveni will go spend it, he took hektish money, he uses it b'sheigeg, now there's me'ilah on him. So again, you see, so that with the usage b'sheigeg of the chenveni, there is me'ilah, and it goes to chulin. With the usage b'mezid of the shliach and the gizbar, it does not go to chulin. So that's because it was b'sheigeg. So clearly this Mishnah is supporting Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that b'mezid it doesn't go to chulin, but b'sheigeg it will go to chulin. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to Meiser for a minute, and the Gemara says, you brought me a Mishnah that says like Rabbi Meir, I have a Mishnah that says like Rabbi Yehuda, that the Meiser is really Mammon hedyet. Where do you see that? So if a Mishnah that says that somebody who redeems Meiser Sheni has to add a fifth of the value, and the Mishnah says whether it's his own Meiser from his own field, or whether this Meiser was given to him as a gift. The Gemara says, how could somebody give a Meiser as a gift? Obviously, this Mishnah is holding that Meiser is the Mamayin Hedyet, and it's his own property, and if he gives it as a gift, it belongs to him. Otherwise, it's Mamayin Gavai all along. There's no stress. He's not receiving it as a gift. So this is holding that Meiser is Mamayin Hedyet. So that is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The Gemara says we're not talking about where he received the Meiser as a gift. We're talking about he received the raw grain that wasn't Meisered yet as a gift, and he took Meiser from that. That, if he wants to redeem, is now his own Meiser, and the halacha is you have to add a fifth whenever you're redeeming your own Meiser. Now, the Gemara just points out there's a machlokes whether receiving unmeisered produce counts as Mammon Hedyot or Mammon Gavaya. The Gemara says this is of the opinion that that's Mammon Hedyot. Okay, next the Gemara brings another Mishnah that says like Rabbi Yehuda in Meiser. This one is talking about Neta Ravai, and it says that somebody who redeems Neta Ravai has to add a fifth to it, and then it says whether it was his own or was given to him as a gift. Now, the opinion that holds that you have to add a fifth, we've seen before, holds that you learn it out of Meiser Sheni. Right? You learn from Meiser Sheni where you have to add a fifth if you redeem your own things to Neta Ravai where you have to add a fifth if you redeem your own things. So that means we're linking the two. So the halachas are the same. So that means that Neta Ravai and Meiser Sheni both have the halacha that it's Mammon Hedyet, otherwise you can't receive it as a gift. How could it be given as a gift? And here you can't answer that. We're talking about before the Meiser was taken. You're talking about the raw fruit, the tevel, because there's no tevel on Kerem Ravai. Neta Ravai, Kerem Ravai, becomes Meiser automatically. You don't have to take anything off. So obviously then you see that this Mishnah holds that Kerem Ravai is Mammon Hedyet like Rabbi Yehuda. So my answer is no. Here we're talking about before the din of Ravai is chal on the fruits. And there's a machlokes if the din of Ravai always applies from when it first grows, or it's a certain stage of growth, what the Gemara calls smadar, then the tiny grapes begin to appear as soon as the blossom falls off. That is the stage before it has the halachas of Ravai, according to one opinion, as opposed to Rabbi Yossi, who holds that it is Ravai all the time. So this Mishnah is holding that it's not Ravai at that time, and it was given to him as a gift at that time before it was Chal, and therefore it's Mammon Hedyet. However, could be holding like Rabbi Meir that once it becomes Chayiv in Ravai, it will be Mammon Gavaya, just like Meiser. The Gemara now brings another Raya from a Mishnah that says that you can purchase Meiser and you kind of it would be Mashiach by pulling it towards you, and that's a halacha which we shall see only applies to something which belongs to you, not to Mammon Gavaya. So the Mishnah over there says that if somebody is purchasing Meiser from someone and he does a Mashiach on the Meiser before he pays for it, and the value goes up. So when he purchased it, at the time he did the Mashiach, it was worth 1 selah. Then he pulls it towards himself, he's kind it. Now it goes up to 2 selah. So it went up in the property of the buyer, and he only has to pay 1 selah, and he gains a selah profit. The increase is his own. And the Mishnah clearly says in the Meiser Sheni belongs to him. Now, this can't fit with Rabbi Meir, because if it's a Mammon Gavaya, it says v'nasan hakesef v'kamloi, which means to say that you have to pay money for Meiser. You cannot be kind it with Mashiach. Obviously, then this is like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara admits this one. The Gemara says, you're right, you found a Mishnah that supports Rabbi Yehuda. So why do we say the halacha is like Rabbi Meir? Because you have one Mishnah that supports Rabbi Meir and one Mishnah that supports Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara answers because the Mishnah that supports Rabbi Meir is taught twice. It appears in Seder Zerayim, Mesechus Meiser Sheni, and it appears in Mesechus Idias as well. And therefore, since it appears twice, it rules the day and shows that the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. Now, the Gemara is not too happy with that. The Gemara says just because it appears twice, it's a Stam Mishnah here, a Stam Mishnah there. Why should the one that is listed twice be the one that determines the halacha? So my answer is it's not because it's twice, it's because it's in Mesechus Idias. Idias is the Masechta where we chose the Mishnahs that are all halachic, and therefore this is a halachic Mishnah, and that is what halacha is like.